What's good, brothers? Back at it again. It's O'Shea Duke Jackson, and today we have a very, very powerful brother. I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
All right, my name is Dr. Musa Abdullah. I run a program and channel called All Things Education Official, where I focus on educational news from a foundational Black American man's perspective, trying to give information to the community about the current state and status of academics and education, but just to keep us informed as a community.
All right, give him a round of applause. And I saw the brother's video actually, and I didn't know he had reached out to me in the past. We talked about it off camera, but it was a very, very powerful video. And you guys know one of the core things on my channel is talking about the issues that affects African American men. And he had a really good talk about why young African American men are hashtag FBA, why a lot of the young brothers are refusing to go to the HBCU system. And you had some pretty good, interesting information about that. Kind of explain why you think, or why you know that is the case.
Well, first of all, a lot of Black men are starting to ask the question, what's in this college thing for me, just in general?
Right.
So a lot of times people, of course, when you're a Black American in particular, they say you should go to an HBCU. So they're like, all right, cool. Well, another downside is that they don't have a background of people in their family saying, do this, do that, give them direction. So they're just saying, go away to college.
Right.
And so you talking about go away to college. Well, what am I going to study? What matters to me? And not to mention, what's going to get me the most bang for my buck? What's going to give me more money?
Right.
So then you start comparing HBCUs in particular to state universities. It's like the difference between a private school and a public school.
Right.
And that's a big thing. So you're talking, first of all, the tuition rates are already high. Then you want to tack on out of state if you're not trying to go to an out of state HBCU. So it's about cost, it's about direction, and also another thing we need to consider is that the majors that they are offering, no one promotes lucrative majors with the exception of law school, medical school. That's all Black people here. You want to make money, be a doctor, be a lawyer. No one hears about any other fields.
Okay. What about engineering?
STEM is one of the things that a lot of Black men, I found in my own personal experiences and as an educator at a community college, they shy away from mathematics because they may have had difficulty in their formative years of learning. So they steer away from math. So the ones that go into engineering that are able to do the calculus, because you got to do calc. It doesn't matter what engineering you do, you got to do calc. Physics, you got to do it.
Physics.
Statistics.
Right.
All of these things with numbers, people are afraid of because they didn't have the right teachings in their primary years and formative years. So they barely made it through algebra 1. The idea of a trig or a calculus terrifies them. So engineering is something that it's not for the faint of heart and for people who are strongly into that mathematics and that type of thing. So
okay. And then let's also talk about the fact that a lot of the young brothers from the FBA community, and you make a strong point, there's a lack also of Black male educators.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Well, right now, currently in America, Black American men in particular only make up 2% of the teaching population. Now, the thing about it was, as I was discussing off camera, and I'll have a mind sharing this again, is that Black men account for a 32% increase in graduation if you have one of them between grades 1 through 6. Wow. That's for Black boys. Now, any child, any gender, the graduation grows by 18% just by having a Black male educator in the classroom with grades 1 through 6.
Wow.
We are typically known as the most popular educators in the building. We also tend to have the best management because we have the best relationships with not only the students, but with their families. So, and if you know anything about education, and if you don't know, this is the one thing you must learn. Education, if it's to be successful, has to be relational. It's got to be relational. And Black men have the best way of getting those relationships started. And
why do you think that is?
With a secret sauce.
Why do you think that I definitely can see that, because I'm thinking about my Black male teachers, if I remember. shout out to Mr. Rouse. He taught biology at Grant High School. Why do you think that is? Why do we have that ability to relate in comparisons to maybe black female teachers or white male teachers or white women teachers?
I think that when black men go into education, we typically go in with a purpose. And that purpose is to educate children that look, experience, sound like us. And we want, because we know as educators, and I think I've had this conversation with so many black men in school, they remember that one black man that pushed them to be better. And they also remember how it felt to be ignored, to be automatically chosen to be the one who did something wrong, accused of it. And they said, I want to be the teacher that doesn't do that.
Right.
And that's what ends up happening.
Okay. And I mean, shout out to the late great Eddie Robinson. This is Black History Month. That was the coach at Grambling State for 57 years. And when I hear like Doug Williams and some of the other brothers, he was as a coach and talking about how if he wasn't there in their life, how they would have turned out, and it's just amazing when you hear that. And we don't have those kind of men like Dr. Abdullah anymore in the communities like we used to. It was more. So why are black men not going into the teaching fields like they used to?
One of the things is that they're still being told the lie that across the board education doesn't pay well. Now, I do recognize it does not pay well in certain cities and states, but for example, where I am, I don't know a teacher that's worked over 10 years who's not making six figures.
Wow.
So, and that's just the kind of the norm out here.
Okay.
Right. Also, interestingly enough, when you are fortunate as a black man to have a school that does care about your future and your post-secondary thoughts, they have career fairs, but which is interesting is that at the career fairs, there's never teachers. So you can't, and you may have a black male teacher in front of you, but guess what he does not do? They don't tell other kids to be teachers, which is amazing to me. And I must admit, because we always, we denigrate our own field, to be honest with you.
Okay.
That it's just something that teachers do in general across the board. We say that we want to change the world, and everybody who's ever done anything successful owes part of that success to a teacher.
Yes,
but we minimize our own craft. Right. I don't do that. And I did that initially. I must admit, I just kind of followed suit. I think I did it because I followed suit. I didn't see anybody bigging us up. So I was like, well, I'll just teach, I'll just do as good a job. So what I focused on is just being a great teacher for my students. It was for them. It wasn't for my own personal accolades. But you find that the ones that are saying, no, hell no, I'm good, I'm dope, I'm all that. Those are ones that become notable. But it's like there's this thing where teachers don't want to be in the limelight. I just be in the background and help kids, But when you do that, children aren't interested in your field, But what I've started doing is I'm starting to tell young men that I know have direction, that have leadership skills, that have mastery of certain subjects. I say, you know what? You'll be a damn good teacher. You ever thought about that? So I'm starting to have those conversations now. Okay.
So let me kind of get into back to the HBCU thing, because I don't know if it's changed, but a lot of the, most of them in like in the East Coast corridor, maybe like, Southeast, and a lot of the schools, are like in the SWAC, Alabama A&M, Alabama State, Jackson, Mississippi, those schools, Alcorn, stuff like that. You do get some level of opportunities. Let's say if you went to Southern, especially in those states where a lot of blacks are out in the old antebellum South, there are opportunities in the Atlantas and in the Georgias and the Floridas and Alabamas, out there that maybe I wouldn't get in California as a black person.
Right.
So even if I were to go to HBCU, I might be able to get on in DC or other places where there are a lot of black opportunities. And you're still seeing that black men still are not even looking at that, because there are opportunities in that kind of the HBCU, states, Tennessee. A lot of things going on.
I mean, there are opportunities, But I'd like to also, we got to be honest. HBCUs are still on a mass scale, they're seen as inferior, even though they're not. I will say that. My son is a proud graduate of Texas Southern. He has 2 degrees there. He's right now at another HBCU. He's at Florida A&M. But people truly believe that HBCU education is not on par with I would say PWI state schools when they are. As a matter of fact, a lot of them are better, much better. But the problem is that they're subsidized by the government, so that the costs are higher. They don't have endowments that are legendary like a lot of these private Ivies and things like that. They just don't. So people are saying, well, why am I going to go to this school, be pigeonholed? These are the ones that actually think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
These are the students that have conversations that say, so I'm gonna go to this HBCU, and I know some people, depending on their field, won't respect the degree. They don't respect the credentials. Then, you hear a lot of stuff about some HBCUs going through accreditation issues, theft, embezzlement. So now, do PWIs go through that? Yes, of course they do. But it's never glamorized. It's never publicized. So you got to take all these things into consideration. And then you're like, man, I'm going to go all the way out here paying an extra $20,000 per year when I can stay in state and pay pennies, get the same degree. And for that purpose, it could be a little bit more marketable.
Okay, no, that's a great point. Let me ask you in comparisons, because when I was at an HBCU and even before that, you would always hear a silly ass ratio. You know how black men, it's like 19 to 1, brother. It's 37 to 1. Right. You know how brothers be just lying, trying to get you to come up. Brother, it's 45 to 1. Yeah. So I mean, it's probably not that much, but it sort of feels like, when you hear about a school in the SWAC or MEAC or something like that, that it's so many more women than the men. And we do know that black men are going to college, but black women also are going to these HBCUs, these legacy HBCU institutions, and they're having the same probably questions as these young black men, but the black women are going to especially the Howards, the Hamptons, the Gramblins. The Southerns are still, I think Southern is the largest HBCU that we have in Baton Rouge. Why are black women enrolling in these HBCUs when they're coming from the same community, same black men, at such an alarming and higher rate?
Well, one of the reasons is that women in general have been taught that if they want to separate themselves and be more independent and be more self-sustaining, they have to get a degree. So, for men, there are different alternatives. A lot of people don't consider this, that men have different routes to success or financial stability. They could do armed forces. There are jobs and positions that they can maintain that require that, well, not necessarily require, but are looked more upon as male fields, like law enforcement, safety and rescue. Like fire department. So these are jobs. And then when you think of the trades, you think of men. So a man could say, you know what, I'm not gonna go to college. I'm gonna be a plumber. I'm not gonna go to college. I'm gonna go to join the firefighters. I'm gonna join the police department. These are options that women say, well, I do have that as an option, but I'd prefer to go to college, get a degree, and give me an office job. Right. That's how they look at it. So men are saying, why am I going to be in debt $100,000 and I'm not going to even make $100,000 when I can just go to a training program, get a CDL, become a tradesman, and make all that money without going to college and going into debt?
Right. Well, let me ask you this, and that's a great point. Why do we see so many in comparisons? Let's say, for example, black women would also know, okay, going to a state school is still cheaper than going to a legacy HBCU. But you still see more black women going to these, because I ain't gonna lie, when I watch the SWAT Alabama versus Alabama State, I see a sea full of sisters and not too many brothers, right? So why are we still seeing so many black women still so loyal to the legacy HBCU institutions, instead of them going more or less, let's say, to their PWIs, but they're still enrolling, instead of not going to their PWI schools?
Well, and now this is purely my opinion on this one, but I
Okay.
would say I think a lot of it is because it's like, why do all women want a such and such a bag? It has a status
Okay.
symbol. It's a symbol.
Okay.
It's I believe personally, it's all an emotional response. It's kind of like, why are black women locked into specific political parties?
Okay.
You know, it's something, it's considered a status symbol. I went here, and my wife, she belongs to sorority as well, a sorority. So a large number of her chapter members are from HBCUs. And
Okay.
that is a thing, even well after graduation. I went
Right.
to, it doesn't matter. They don't ask me what I graduated in. That ain't important. I
Right.
went to an HBCU. I went to Tuskegee. I went to
I
Tennessee
went to
State. I
the
went to
Hampton
Howard.
University.
Right.
The Howard.
Right.
Yeah.
I went to the real HU, and all these arguments.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but you got the degree, and now you $150K in debt, but you got that degree and you're not making $150K. So I'm trying to figure this out. So a lot of black women they go to these HBCUs because it's a status symbol. It's a feather in their cap, and it makes them feel more credentialed and more valid.
Okay. Where in comparison to young black men, which we don't care about all that. We looking at the means, even for medicine.
Right.
I had a hard time thinking about, damn, should I go into an MBA program or should I go into something? This is a lot of money.
Right.
And black men are going to look at that because we don't have that kind of help all the time,
Right.
So, yeah, and the women, that's a great point. Women are looking for, that tied to, they're more tied to the HBC, more loyal, I would say, to the HBCUs. Let me also talk about this because if you're a brother and, if you're interested in a black wife, which you don't have to go to HBCU and get one, but your odds, if you listen to Negroes on the internet, it's 3,000 to 1, right?
Right.
3,000 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that black men being less attracted to the HBCUs, is that something that you feel is not, do you think that we would have more marriages? Would there be more black relationships?
I'm gonna be honest with you, brother. I would say no, and I'm gonna tell you why. I've actually pondered this question, and what I concluded is that it's like taking a hungry man to a buffet, right? You take him in front of the buffet and say, "Go ahead and eat." What's the first thing you'll say? Well, where do I start? Whereas at the PWIs, your picks are smaller, but they're still abundant.
Okay.
So, right. So the black community where I went to, my university was a third largest university in the state of Michigan, under Michigan State and U of M. And so we had our own population of black people on the campus and off campus. And we were all kind of aligned or close connected. We not know each other, but we know of each other. So dating wasn't difficult. So like at the HBCUs, where they tell you got 3,000 to 1, at a PWI, you probably have 1,000 to 1. If we're doing all the exaggerating. Right. So like my wife, I met my wife in college. And I want to say, out of everyone that I know in my circle who's married, only maybe two of them did not meet their wife in college. So all of my, two of them didn't meet their wives in college.
Yeah, them black student BSUs is everywhere.
Listen, listen. You go to the NAAC party, the fraternity parties. They have other organizations like the Young Black Male Support Network, YB, You Beautiful Black Woman Network. They had clubs and groups that threw parties and functions, and quietly you are able to meet someone who's like-minded because they're in school and they're trying to do things you're trying to do. And it's a lot. I would say it would be much easier for me to choose out of 1,000. I got 3,000. I'm never going to choose.
Right. And it's an excellent point. It's an excellent point. So let me ask then, with black men declining in the HBCUs, because I don't know, because you're working with young black men. That's now. I know black men in my age, it was still a bigger, hey, go to college. Come back to the black. At least, I was born in the 90s. Not born in the 90s, raised in the 90s.
Right.
So the baby boomers were kind of dying off, but they still had a lot of, pull in the black community. So grandma and them, come back to your black community, help your church, get a black wife, things like that. Right. That was what they were teaching me when I was coming up, because it's kind of like Medea's was kind of dying off in the mid 90s.
Right.
So grandma and them was still there. What's the culture now? Young black men, they might not be as loyal to the black community as, let's say, somebody like you, who's, a few years older than me and in our generation. What is the culture of young black men now, and how do they feel about Black America? What is their thought? What are they thinking about in their future as it relates to being in Black America?
I'm so glad you had this question. This is so wild for me because I've been talking to young black men consistently with intention at least since 2010. And I'm gonna share something with you. Their sentiment has not changed. That's the killer. I'm
Really?
talking about, I've had students that are now in their 30s now, right? But I had them when they were 12. I had them when they were 11. I have students now that I've had this question. I asked a couple of boys. We were just in the gym talking, and I was like, "How many of y'all want to be married?" They all were like, "I want to be married." All of them said it. Okay. Now on the flip, I've asked a group of girls. They're like, "I want to be married." For what? Okay. Yes. And another thing. So I'm like, and so I would just throw stuff out there, say, "Yeah, you're gonna get you somebody look like your mother." And they're saying it's so crazy because these boys that are 12 and 13, some 14, are saying the same things that my mother said to me. You better bring somebody home to look like me. You better, they can't use your comb, don't bring them home. They're still saying stuff like that.
Okay.
Right.
That's the first time I heard that one.
That's old. So I'm hearing young boys that were born 2012, 2000, 2014. They're reciting these mantras, and they're like, "Yeah, I want to get married, but man, I don't trust them. They ain't loyal." They throw that in there. Okay. But the girls are the one who say they don't want to be married. Okay. They don't want kids. The boys are saying, "Yeah, I want to have a son." It's a mind blower because I remember when it was reversed. For a lot of the girls, they were like, "Yeah, I want to be married. I want to be married." Now they're saying, "Nope, don't want to do it."
Okay. So the culture it hasn't changed so much in the generations.
Not for the boys. Not for the young men, not for the young men, but young black men, they want to be. I got some young black talking about here. I got one. I'm thinking of one student right now who told me, and he's in the 8th grade. He told me he wants to be married before he's 25.
Okay. What do you think has changed? Let's say from the millennial Generation X stage for black men, and their relation to Black America as to right now in 2025. What do you think has changed?
A lot of them don't understand why we're where we are. They don't understand it. They like when you bring them something, they're like, "Well, what am I gonna get for it?" They're strict. They just straight to it. You can't get symbolism over on them or psychic benefit. No, I want to know how I'm gonna gain. Quid pro quo. What am I getting? And because the baby boomers, which were my mother, and I'm a Generation X, Generation X and the baby boomers, we were just happy just to be in the room. These new children, these young millennials and Generation Alphas, they want to know, what am I getting for my time, my energy, my efforts? And they don't understand why Black people are still stuck in these spots, because they're like, "Dude, there's so many of us. We got money." They don't understand. So in us trying to bring them back to the civil rights, it's not helping. They're like, "No, we ain't doing all that. You put your hands on me, it's a problem. You say something crazy to me, it's a problem. You don't pay me what I'm worth, I'm quitting." They don't. No, they're loyal to themselves. And if you're lucky, they'll be loyal to the community. But that energy of being loyal to yourself, that could be easily transferred to loyalty to the community, because you can show them benefits of being loyal to the community.
Let's talk about that, because that's something, when I was talking to one of my buddies, he's like, "Yeah, man, so many young people are not as not pro-black anymore. I think you summed it up as to people are looking more for what am I getting out of it? I'm not going to be the one suffering. And you see a lot of with a lot of young black men, because let's say, for example, when I was coming up, if a woman had a child, that wasn't a bad thing.
No.
Like, that wasn't looked down upon.
Right.
But now it's like, what? No, I'm not, so let's talk about, how that can be channeled into seeing the benefits of being in the community in versus of like, looking out for myself.
Well, a lot of times our young men, it's not that they're not pro-black. It's like, to them, blackness is what it is. I'm black, but the one thing they did pick up that I really wish they didn't pick up, but they do, and you can see it manifest itself. They believe their own personal success is success for the community. Because, and to be honest with you, that was what was taught to them by older millennials, Generation X, and the baby boomers. Let's take Barack Obama becoming president. They're still talking about that like that was an accomplishment for the black community.
Oh yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So we taught these children that if you do well, that means we've all done well. So that's why I say we have to actively engage them and teach them about to be more communal, community oriented, and say, listen, I get it. You're doing well. You know what you should do? Maybe if you get a couple more folks like you do well as a group, you could spread the wealth. Everybody starts to do well. They'll buy into that more than the old cliche of you do it for yourself and we all ride the bus on it. It doesn't work anymore.
Okay, got it. So now that we have went over so many of these things, brother, I will say you have a very, very unique channel, and I'm just so glad. I like to work with the black academic community. I went over here and started tricking off too much, but I'm back on my job, brother. I'm back on my job, working with what I love to do, and I'm just so grateful. When I saw your video, I was like, man, just came up my timeline. And it was, I think probably it's your best video on your channel.
Yeah.
And why young black men or black men or not, I forgot the title of it, but I put it there on the screen. Why black? I think it's the video is called Black American Males Skipping Out on HBCUs. It was a wonderful video. It was a really good video. All things education official. Tell people why this channel that you have, what your unique knowledge, why is it such a powerful channel?
I believe it's because of my own personal integrity, and I did not start the channel to make money or to get clout. I started the channel because I know the conversations I've had with so many black parents, and I've seen black children get forced into situations and spaces that they shouldn't have been in, and I've seen children's education ruined, and I fought hard against it. But I said one of the things we're not learning is how to navigate educational spaces, what things we need to be looking out for. And that was my goal. So I think it comes from me actually caring about black children and their learning and the community as a whole.
All right. So guys, I will put the link to his channel. Subscribe, hit the bell over there, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. We out.